In 2014, a film called The Imitation Game told the world who broke the Enigma code. Benedict Cumberbatch played Alan Turing, the eccentric Cambridge mathematician who built a machine called the Bombe, cracked the cipher that protected every German military communication and shortened the Second World War by at least 2 years. The film won an Oscar. It grossed over $200 million, and it cemented Turing as the lone genius of Bletchley Park. There was one problem. The bombe, as Turing originally designed it, was practically useless. It needed at least 3 closed loops of letter relationships in its input to produce a reliable result. Only a small fraction of intercepted German messages generated those loops. When it did find something, it spat out so many false answers that operators could not separate signal from noise. The machine existed. It worked in theory. In practice, it was drowning. The man who fixed it, who added a single hardware component that reduced the search space by a factor of 10 trillion, who then built the entire production system around it, who organized the interception, the analysis, the decryption, and the delivery of intelligence into one integrated chain that processed over 1 million German messages, was not mentioned in the film. Not once, not even in the credits. His name was Gordon Welchman. On the 12th of July, 1985, a letter arrived at his home in Newburyport, Massachusetts. It came from Sir Peter Merrychurch, director of GCHQ, the government communications headquarters, the direct institutional descendant of Bletchley Park. Welchman was 79 years old. He had cancer, and the letter called him a disastrous example to others. 3 years earlier, Welchman had published a book titled The Hut 6 Story, the first account of Bletchley Park to include genuine technical detail about how the code-breaking operation actually worked. The National Security Agency responded by revoking his American security clearance. His consultancy with the MITRE Corporation, where he had spent 2 decades developing NATO command and control systems, was terminated overnight. GCHQ revoked his British clearance. Publishers were pressured. The book was forced off their lists. Federal agents visited his home for questioning. Sir Stuart Milner Barry, Welchman's wartime deputy, and a man not given to overstatement, called it a prime example of the lengths to which GCHQ's paranoia could reach. And he wrote something else too. He wrote that if Gordon Welchman had not been there, he doubted whether Ultra would have played the part it undoubtedly did in shortening the war. The cruelest irony was this. What alarmed GCHQ and the NSA most was not the Enigma mechanics. Other authors had published those already. It was Welchman's revelations about traffic analysis, the systematic study of who communicates with whom, when, where, and how often, without reading the content of the messages. Welchman had invented this approach in 1939 in a requisitioned schoolroom with a pile of intercepted signals and a box of colored pencils. More than 4 decades later, those techniques were still in daily operational use. The very system he had built was now the system being used to silence him. Less than 3 months after Merrychurch's letter, Gordon Welchman was gone. He passed away at Anna Jacques Hospital, Newburyport, on the 8th of October 1985. He was working on 2 more books. He would never finish either of them. In 2016, 31 years after his passing, the director of GCHQ stood at the church in Bristol, where Welchman had been baptized, and called him a giant of his era. The organization that had branded him an outsider and a disastrous example finally acknowledged what Stuart Milner Barry had written 3 decades earlier, that without this man, the war might have lasted years longer, that without this man, the intelligence Turing's machine produced would have been little more than paper. Gordon Welchman was born on the 15th of June 1906 in Fishponds, a suburb of Bristol that was neither fashionable nor remarkable. His father, William, was a Church of England clergyman who had served as a missionary abroad before settling into parish life at St. Mary's Church. He would eventually rise to Archdeacon of Bristol, a position of modest ecclesiastical authority and even more modest income. His mother, Elizabeth Marshall Griffith, was the daughter of yet another clergyman. The household ran on faith, routine, and not much else. Gordon was the youngest of three. His elder brother Eric was lost at the Battle of Mons in August 1914 during the first chaotic weeks of the Great War. Gordon was 8. The war took his brother before he was old enough to understand what a war was, and it would shape the next one he fought in. Fought not with a rifle, but with coloured pencils and wiring diagrams. At 14, he won a foundation scholarship to Marlborough College in Wiltshire. He was a sharp, energetic boy who loved the officer training corps, the field exercises, the mock battles, the thrill of tactical thinking. He was heading for an artillery commission. The man who changed that trajectory was Alan Robson, head of mathematics at Marlborough from 1911 to 1947. Robson saw something in Welchman that Welchman had not yet seen in himself. He redirected the boy from guns to equations. It was the single most consequential act of teaching in this story. Because without Robson, Welchman goes into the army, and Bletchley Park loses the man who would make it work. Marlborough in the 1920s was a strange place to build a codebreaker. One term ahead of Welchman sat John Betjeman, who would become poet laureate. 2 terms behind him sat Anthony Blunt, who would become surveyor of the King's pictures and, rather less publicly, a Soviet spy. The corridors produced poets, traitors, and, in Welchman's case, the architect of Britain's greatest intelligence operation. In 1925, Welchman entered Trinity College, Cambridge, on a mathematics scholarship. His contemporary in the same year was Stuart Milner Barry, reading classics, a man who would later become his closest wartime colleague and the person who hand-delivered the most important letter in British intelligence history. Welchman achieved a first class in Part 1 of the mathematical tripos in 1926 and a first class in Part 2 in 1928. He was not merely competent. He was operating at the level where Cambridge stops teaching you and starts watching to see what you do next. After a year teaching mathematics at Cheltenham, he returned to Cambridge in 1929 as a research fellow at Sydney Sussex College, elected full fellow in 1932, then dean. He lectured in algebraic geometry, projective geometry, ruled surfaces, the mathematics of shapes and structures in higher dimensional space. His intellectual lineage ran through the school of H.F. Baker, the Lowndean professor, Cambridge's dominant figure in the geometry of the era. Welchman's major pre-war paper, submitted in September 1934, ran to 45 pages and sought to develop what he called a satisfactory general theory of special ruled surfaces. It was not the work of a man interested in solving one problem. It was the work of a mind that wanted to understand entire systems, how every component related to every other component, how the whole framework held together. That instinct would define everything he did at Bletchley Park. He began collaborating with Robson, his old Marlborough schoolmaster, on a textbook, Introduction to Algebraic Geometry, in 1934. The war killed the project for 15 years. It was finally published by Cambridge University Press in 1950. Among his students at Sydney Sussex was Joan Clark, a gifted mathematician who would follow him to Bletchley Park and become one of the key cryptanalysts in Hut 8, and, briefly, Alan Turing's fiancée. Former students remembered Welchman fondly for his dapper dress sense and his continual unsuccessful attempts to light his pipe throughout lectures. The pipe never cooperated. The mathematics always did. He married Catherine Hodgson, a professional musician, in March 1937 in Bradfield, Berkshire. The marriage would not survive the war, or rather, it would not survive what the war turned him into. But in the spring of 1937, none of that mattered. He was a Cambridge Don with a fellowship, a pipe that refused to stay lit, and a Morgan three-wheeler parked outside Sydney, Sussex. Sometime in 1937 or 38, Commander Alistair Denniston, the head of the government code and cipher school, came to Cambridge for dinner. Denniston made a habit of dining at high tables in Oxford and Cambridge, quietly recruiting what he called men of the professor type. His colleague Josh Cooper recalled that Denniston came home from these dinners with promises from a number of dons. One of those dons was Welchman. In March 1939, he attended a short cryptography course organized by Denniston's people. He learned just enough to know that he understood almost nothing about code breaking. That would change on a Monday morning in September. On Monday, the 4th of September, 1939, the day after Britain declared war on Germany, Welchman packed a bag into his Morgan three-wheeler, left Cambridge and drove to Bletchley Park. He arrived alongside Alan Turing and John Jeffreys. The estate was a Victorian mansion surrounded by huts, outbuildings, and a general atmosphere of controlled confusion. Nobody seemed entirely sure what they were supposed to be doing, except that it involved the German Enigma cipher, and that failure was not a theoretical concept. Welchman was assigned to the research section under Dilwyn Knox, known universally as Dilly. Knox was brilliant, temperamental, and 64 years old. He had broken codes in room 40 during the First World War. He was the senior figure on Enigma at Bletchley, and he did not, as a general rule, enjoy being told things by people younger and less experienced than himself. Welchman was sent away from the main effort almost immediately. His assignment was Elmer's Schoolhouse, a requisition building near the estate, where he was given a pile of intercepted Enigma traffic from the Chatham station at Fort Bridgewoods and told to study it, not the cipher itself, the patterns around it, who was transmitting to whom, on what frequencies, at what times. He sat in that schoolroom with colored pencils and annotated the intercepts by type. Luftwaffe, general operational, traffic got a red pencil. That color stuck. The key would be known as red for the rest of the war, and red would become the single most productive Enigma key ever broken, often solved before breakfast. Within his first 2 months working entirely alone, Welchman independently reinvented the perforated sheet method for exploiting a weakness in how German operators encrypted their message keys. When he brought it excitedly to Knox, he discovered that Polish cryptographer Henryk Zagalski had invented the same technique a year earlier. The Poles had already handed it to the British at a meeting in the Pyrie Forest in July 1939. Welchman was deflated, but the episode proved he could think at the level of the best cryptanalysts in Europe, with no training, no guidance, and a box of colored pencils. What happened next was not a breakthrough in code breaking. It was a breakthrough in thinking about code breaking. In October 1939, Welchman drew up a comprehensive plan, not to crack a single key, but to coordinate everything as a single integrated system. Radio interception, traffic analysis, key breaking, message decryption, and intelligence extraction all linked end to end. Nobody else at Bletchley had conceived of the entire chain. The codebreakers were focused on individual problems. Welchman saw the factory floor. He later wrote that no one else was doing anything about this potential gold mine. He was not being arrogant. He was being accurate. He presented the plan to Commander Edward Travis, the deputy director. Travis saw the value immediately. On the 18th of November, a memo was sent to Denniston to establish a production section. That section was given a name that would become one of the most consequential addresses of the 20th century, Hut 6. Welchman co-led it with John Jeffries until May 1940, when Jeffries fell gravely ill with tuberculosis. He would not recover. Welchman ran Hut 6 alone from that point, and under his command it grew from roughly 30 staff to over 450 by September 1943. The opposition came from predictable directions. Colonel Butler of M118 tried to insert bureaucratic layers between Bletchley and the intercept stations. Group Captain Blandy of the RAF's Y service declared that Hut 6 had not begun to understand the niceties of interception. Welchman fought both and won. The system survived because he defended it with the same tenacity he had used to build it. But by autumn 1941, a different enemy was strangling the operation. Treasury rules required that any department requesting extra staff first undergo an efficiency investigation. Months of requests through normal channels had failed. Messages that could save lives were sitting undecrypted because there were not enough hands to process them. Welchman drafted a letter to the Prime Minister. It identified 3 specific bottlenecks. The Hollerith section needed at least 20 women clerks for night shifts. Middle Eastern intelligence could not be decoded due to typist fatigue, and REN shortages were forcing cryptanalysts to run Bombe tests themselves. 4 men signed it on the 21st of October, 1941. Turing, Welchman, Connell Hugh Alexander, Stuart Milner Barry. They became known as the Wicked Uncles. Milner Barry was chosen to deliver it on the grounds that he was the most expendable. He took a train to Euston, then a taxi to 10 Downing Street. The envelope was marked secret and confidential, Prime Minister only. Churchill had visited Bletchley 6 weeks earlier. During that visit, Travis had told Welchman to prepare a short speech and then cut him off after 2 points. Churchill interjected, "I think there was a third point, Welchman," and gave him what Welchman described as a grand schoolboy wink. Now Churchill read the letter. The next day he affixed his red action, this day label, and wrote to General Ismay, "Make sure they have all they want on extreme priority and report to me that this has been done." More bombings were ordered. A new outstation opened at Gayhurst Manor. Treasury efficiency rules were dropped. Milner Barry recalled that almost from that day, the rough ways began miraculously to be made smooth. Stuart Menzies, chief of the Secret Intelligence Service, was less impressed. He appeared at Bletchley and personally rebuked Welchman for going over his head. Welchman bore the rebuke. He had what he needed. The factory was running. The intelligence it produced, codenamed Ultra, would reach roughly 40 commands worldwide through special liaison units. We covered one of its most spectacular applications in our video on Agent Garbo, where Ultra decrypts confirmed that the Fortitude deception was holding, keeping German divisions pinned at Pas de Calais for 7 weeks after Normandy. That intelligence flowed through the system Welchman had built. But nobody outside Bletchley Park would know his name for another 4 decades. To understand what Welchman actually did, the thing that transformed Bletchley Park from an academic experiment into an industrial weapon, you need to understand the problem he was solving. And the problem was not Enigma. The problem was scale. The Enigma machine, in its military configuration, offered approximately 159 million possible settings. That number is not a rhetorical flourish. 158 quintillion, 962 quadrillion, 555 trillion, 217 billion, 826 million, 360,000. Each day, German operators set their machines to one of those configurations. The task was to find which one. Turing's approach was elegant. If you could guess a fragment of the plain text, a crib, you could align it against the intercepted ciphertext and deduce a chain of letter relationships. If those relationships formed closed loops, an electromechanical machine, the Bombe, could grind through rotor positions until it found one where all the connections held simultaneously. The trouble was the plug board. The Enigma's steckerbrett, 26 sockets connected in pairs by cables, added an extra layer of scrambling that multiplied possibilities enormously. Turing's original bomb design needed menus with at least 3 closed loops to produce reliable results. Only a small fraction of intercepted messages yielded such menus. And even then, the machine produced an overwhelming number of false stops, positions where the test appeared to succeed, but the answer was wrong. Operators checked each stop by hand. It could take hours. The first Bombe, named Victory, was installed in Hut 1 at Bletchley Park on the 14th of March 1940. It proved the concept. It also proved the limitations. Victory was slow, unreliable, with anything less than perfect input, and drowning in false positives. Welchman's insight came within his first 2 months, before Victory was even built. It was devastatingly simple. The plug board was self-reciprocal. If the operator had plugged letter B to letter G, then G was necessarily plugged to B. This was a physical constraint of the hardware, obvious to anyone who looked at the machine. But nobody had thought through the mathematical implications for the bomb. Every time the testing process deduced a plug board pairing, the reciprocal was also true. And that reciprocal could be fed back into the circuit to generate further deductions, which would generate further reciprocals, cascading through the entire network. One correct deduction triggered a chain reaction. One incorrect deduction produced a contradiction and eliminated the hypothesis almost instantly. The physical implementation was the diagonal board mounted on the rear of the bomb, a grid of 26 rows by 26 columns, 676 electrical terminals in total, with 325 permanent wire connections linking every symmetrical pair, row B column G wired to row G column B, row D column F wired to row F column D, every reciprocal relationship hardwired in copper. The effect was to eliminate the plug board from the calculations entirely. The search space collapsed from 159 quintillion to 1 million, 54,560. 60 possible wheel orders multiplied by 17,576 starting positions, a reduction by a factor of roughly 10 trillion. The bomb could now work with a single loop or no loops at all. False stops dropped from a flood to an occasional nuisance. When Welchman showed his diagram to Turing, Turing was incredulous. Then he studied it. Then he became as excited as Welchman was. He agreed that the improvement was spectacular. Those were his words. The second Bombe, Agnes Day, called Agnes, was installed in Hut 11 in August 1940, fitted with Welchman's diagonal board. This was the first true Turing-Welchman bomb. Victory was sent back to the British Tabulating Machine Company factory at Letchworth to be retrofitted. The machines were built under Chief Engineer Harold Keane. Each stood 7 feet wide, 6.5 feet tall, and 2 feet deep. Weight, approximately 1 ton. 36 Enigma equivalent scramblers, arranged in 3 banks of 12 on the front face, each with 3 drums. Inside, roughly 12 miles of insulated wire and 50,000 cable terminations. All 17,576 positions for 1 rotor order could be tested in about 20 minutes. Later versions cut that to 11. By the end of the war, 211 British bombers were in operation. staffed by 263 men and 1,676 wrens, nearly 2,000 operators in total. The Americans built another 121, with drum speeds more than 30 times faster. That was the machine. Now for the factory. Hut 6, built from Welchman's October 1939 plan, was not a room full of geniuses staring at ciphertext. It was a production line with 5 interlocking sections running around the clock. The registration room received raw intercepts from Y stations, listening posts at Chatham, Chicksands, Beaumanoir Hall and others, and sorted them by call sign, frequency and network. Traffic analysts mapped the German communication structure before a single message was decrypted. The intercept control room maintained 24-hour contact with those stations, directing priorities in real time. The machine room, the cryptanalytic heart, found cribs, generated menus, ran the bombs, and tested stops. The decoding room, staffed predominantly by women operating modified Typex machines rewired to replicate Enigma, decrypted the actual text. The noise was appalling. The pace was relentless. Operators were constantly having nervous breakdowns on account of it. Between Hut 6 and Hut 3, the intelligence analysis section, sat a makeshift wooden tunnel. Decoded messages were placed on a tea tray and pushed through with a broomstick. On the other side, translators turned German text into actionable intelligence for field commanders. Hut 3 was run from 1943 by squadron leader Eric Jones, a man who had not been to university, knew no German, and had previously run a textile agency. He became one of the most effective leaders at Bletchley and later succeeded Travis as director of GCHQ. The final piece, and the one that would eventually destroy Welchman's reputation, was traffic analysis. What he had begun with colored pencils grew into 6 tar, Hut 6 traffic analysis. The team studied everything except message content, call signs, frequencies, transmission times, message volumes, operator fists, the distinctive Morse rhythms of individual operators as recognizable as handwriting. 3-letter discriminant groups in preambles that identified different Enigma networks. This metadata produced intelligence even when the cipher was unbroken. It revealed which units were active, where they were moving, and how their command structure was organized. Welchman and his colleague, Alex Kendrick, identified that preamble groups could distinguish between networks, enabling Bletchley to focus resources on the most operationally significant traffic. The official history of 6T remains classified. That single fact tells you everything about how important those methods still are. One more contribution deserves mention, not Welchman's own, but one his system made possible. On the 1st of May 1940, the Germans stopped double encrypting message keys. Overnight, the perforated sheet method became useless. The crisis was filled by the Herrevel tip, discovered by John Herrevel, a Sydney, Sussex student whom Welchman had recruited. Herrevel reasoned that lazy German operators might not rotate their wheels far from the previous day's setting before choosing a starting position. Plot enough early morning indicators and a cluster would appear, betraying the ring's setting. On the 22nd of May, David Rees spotted the first usable cluster. The Herrevel tip kept Hut 6 alive until the diagonal board bombs arrived in August. Welchman later wrote, "If Herrevel had not been recruited in January 1940, who would have thought of the Herrevel tip, without which we would have been defeated in May 1940. By 1943, Hut 6 was attacking more than 20 Enigma keys daily and producing several thousand decrypts every 24 hours. Over the course of the war, Welchman's system processed more than 1 million German messages. The question was no longer whether it worked. The question was what it could win. The first time Welchman's system changed the course of a battle, most people did not even know the battle was happening. On the 5th of June 1940, HUT-6 decoded a Luftwaffe Enigma message containing precise coordinates and a word nobody at Bletchley had seen before, Knickerbein. The message revealed that the Germans had built a radio beam navigation system capable of guiding bombers to their targets at night with unprecedented accuracy. Two intersecting beams, transmitted from stations on the French and Dutch coasts, converged over a specific point in England. Where the beams crossed, the bomber crews released their payloads. The decrypt was passed to R.V. Jones at the Air Ministry, a young scientist whose job was to understand German weapons before they were used. When HUT-6 broke the brown key in September 1940, the Enigma network used by the Luftwaffe's Pathfinder Squadron, KG-100. It opened a window into every beam transmitter operation at Vannes, Morlaix, Cherbourg, and Boulogne. British countermeasures, jamming transmitters, codenamed aspirins, bent the beams. German bombers, following signals they trusted absolutely, dropped their bombs on empty fields. During the Blitz, this saved an unknowable number of civilian lives. The intelligence came directly from HUT-6. There was no other source. The Battle of Britain followed, and here, precision matters. HUT-6 was breaking the Luftwaffe's red key daily from the 22nd of May 1940. Red decrypts revealed that Goering was consistently underestimating RAF fighter strength in his reports to Hitler. By the 5th of August, Bletchley had compiled the first complete Luftwaffe order of battle from Ultra intercepts. Ultra confirmed the German intention for Operation Sea Lion, the invasion of Britain, and its subsequent postponement. But Ultra's role in the Battle of Britain was strategic, not tactical. The day-to-day interception of German raids relied on radar, the chain home network, and the Y service, monitoring low-grade Luftwaffe radio traffic in real time. Ultra told Churchill and the air staff what the Germans were planning. It did not tell Keith Park at RAF Uxbridge where the next raid was coming from in the next 30 minutes. The distinction matters because this audience will know it. And overstating Ultra's tactical role in the summer of 1940 would be a factual error. Where HUT-6 was most directly and provably decisive was North Africa. The light blue key, the Enigma network of Fliegerführer Africa, was a HUT-6 product. Army and Air Force decrypts from the Desert War gave British commanders a level of visibility into Rommel's operations that bordered on omniscience. Ultra enabled the tracking of individual Axis supply convoys in the Mediterranean. Specific ships could be identified, cargoes were known, munitions ships were sunk, food transports were sometimes allowed through. A calculated mercy designed to avoid alerting the Germans that their communications were compromised. Between May and September 1941, Luftwaffe fuel stocks in North Africa fell by 90%. Not because of frontline combat, because British submarines and aircraft, guided by ultra-intelligence, were methodically destroying the supply chain. Welchman's own favorite anecdote from the war captured the texture of this work. There was a German officer sitting in the Katara Depression who reported every single day with clockwork regularity that he had nothing to report. Welchman and his team developed what he called a very friendly feeling for this man, because his stereotyped daily messages, identical in structure every morning, provided perfect cribs for breaking that day's Enigma key. The German officer was helping Bletchley Park without knowing it, and he did so faithfully for months. At the Battle of Alam Halfa in late August 1942, Ultra tipped off Montgomery that Rommel planned an outflanking attack through the southern desert. British forces were waiting. It was Montgomery's first defensive victory, and it was built on intelligence that flowed through Welchman's system. At the Second Battle of El Alamein in October 1942, Ultra exposed the complete axis order of battle, their supply position, and their fuel shipment schedules. Montgomery knew when tankers were sailing and directed their destruction. Rommel's 108,000 men and 550 tanks faced an Allied force with decisive advantages in numbers, equipment, and, most critically, information. Alamein broke the Africa Corps. The intelligence that made it possible was a HUT-6 product. By D-Day, the 6th of June 1944, the combined Bletchley operation with HUT-6 Army and Air Force decrypts as a core component allowed Allied planners to know precise details of every single one of the 58 German divisions in France. A 70,000-character Lorenz decrypt of Rommel's personal inspection report on the Western Wall defenses had been decoded before the invasion. How wide the anti-tank trenches were, how much barbed wire, the exact disposition of forces along every sector of the coast. Ultra confirmed that the fortitude deception was holding. On the 1st of June, a decrypted report from Japanese Ambassador Oshima to Tokyo recounted Hitler's belief that diversionary attacks would target Norway and southern France. German reserves stayed at Pas-de-Calais for 7 weeks after the landings. Roughly 100,000 Ultra signals were transmitted to field commands through special liaison units during the course of the war. Sir Harry Hinsley, the official historian of British wartime intelligence, concluded that Ultra shortened the European war by at least 2 years. Eisenhower wrote to Stuart Menzies that it had been decisive and of priceless value. He said it saved thousands of British and American lives. What neither Hinsley nor Eisenhower mentioned was the name of the man who built the system that produced it. The war ended. Welchman received a secret OBE in the 1944 King's Birthday Honours. The London Gazette described him as William Gordon Welchman, Esquire, employed in a department of the Foreign Office. That was it. No public ceremony, no explanation, no other wartime or post-war honour followed. He took Hugh Alexander's old post as Director of Research at the John Lewis Partnership, the British retail group. A man who had built the operational backbone of the greatest intelligence operation in history was now studying department store efficiency. It was not what anyone would have predicted, but Welchman had signed the Official Secrets Act, and the work he had done at Bletchley did not officially exist. In 1948, he emigrated to the United States. At MIT, he worked on Project Whirlwind, an early effort to deploy computers for air traffic control and air defense. In 1951, he taught what is believed to be the first computer programming course at MIT's Electrical Engineering Department. Among his students was Frank Hart, who would later become a key engineer in the development of ARPANET, the network that became the Internet. The man who had built the world's first industrial-scale intelligence system was now teaching the foundations of the technology that would define the next century. He moved through Remington Rand and Ferranti before joining the MITRE Corporation in 1962. MITRE was a federally funded research center supporting the Department of Defense, and Welchman, now an American citizen, spent 2 decades there developing secure military communications. His most significant achievement at MITRE was serving as principal co-investigator on the original development of JTIDS, the Joint Tactical Information Distribution System. JTIDS provides command and control, position location, and identification capabilities across Allied forces. It remains fully operational today, used by NATO, the United States Air Force and Navy, Britain, France, and dozens of Allied nations. Welchman formally retired in 1971, but was retained as a consultant. Then in 1974, Frederick Winterbotham published The Ultra Secret, the first major public account of Bletchley Park. The book was riddled with inaccuracies, but it broke the dam of secrecy. Welchman felt released from his wartime pledge of silence, something that had given him, as he put it, great discomfort for 3 decades. He decided to write the real story. The Hut-6 story was published in March 1982 by McGraw-Hill in the United States and Alan Lane in Britain. It was the first book to contain genuine technical detail about how Bletchley Park actually operated. Part 4 of the original edition went further. It argued that modern military communication systems had dangerous vulnerabilities that needed public scrutiny. We told the story of Tommy Flowers in an earlier video, how the British government classified Colossus, ordered every machine destroyed, and swore Flowers to silence for decades. Welchman's fate was worse. Flowers was silenced. Welchman was punished for speaking. The NSA revoked his security clearance. GCHQ revoked his British clearance. His MITRE consultancy, his last professional connection to the world he had helped build, was terminated. Publishers were pressured until the book was withdrawn from their lists. His biographer Joel Greenberg later stated that Welchman was targeted for prosecution under the same legislation used against Edward Snowden, though no charges were ever filed. The impact was described by those who knew him as devastating. What the intelligence agencies found most threatening was not the Enigma material. Others had published that. It was the traffic analysis, the metadata techniques, the methods Welchman had invented in 1939 with colored pencils in a requisition schoolroom. Those methods were still in active use in 1982. They are still in active use now. Welchman spent his final 3 years working on 2 more books he would never finish, and an article titled From Polish Bombe to British Bombe. The Mary Church letter arrived in July 1985. He passed away from cancer on the 8th of October at Anna Jackes Hospital in Newburyport. He was 79. The rehabilitation began with Stuart Milner Barry. In 1986, 1 year after Welchman's passing, he published a memorial tribute in the journal Intelligence and National Security. The key sentence read, "If Gordon Welchman had not been there, I doubt if Ultra would have played the part it undoubtedly did in shortening the war." This was not sentiment. It was the professional judgment of the man who had worked more closely with both Turing and Welchman than anyone else alive. Joel Greenberg's authorized biography, Gordon Welchman, Bletchley Park's architect of ultra-intelligence, was published in 2014, drawing on personal papers discovered in Welchman's family archive. The BBC broadcast a documentary the following year, Bletchley Park, Codebreaking's Forgotten Genius. In the United States, the Smithsonian Channel aired it under a different title, The Codebreaker Who Hacked Hitler. Then came the moment that closed the circle. On the 26th of September 2016, a blue plaque was unveiled at St. Mary's Church in Fishponds, Bristol, the church where Welchman's father had served as vicar, the church where Welchman had been baptized. Robert Hannigan, the director of GCHQ, stood at the ceremony. GCHQ staff had brought a genuine Enigma machine. Hannigan acknowledged the harsh treatment Welchman had received and paid tribute to his immense contribution. He called him a giant of his era, the same organization, the same institutional authority, 31 years too late. The scholarly consensus has shifted decisively. Welchman is now regarded as equally important as Turing to the success of Ultra. The distinction increasingly recognized by historians is precise. Turing built the machine that could break the cipher. Welchman built the system that turned broken ciphers into a weapon. Without either, Ultra fails. But without Welchman specifically, the decrypts would have been, as Milner Barry implied, useless paper. His legacy runs deeper than Bletchley. Traffic analysis, the study of who communicates with whom, when, where, and how often, is now called metadata analysis, and it is the foundation of modern signals intelligence. The BBC documentary drew a direct line from Welchman's 1939 innovations to the tracking and elimination of Osama bin Laden through communications network analysis. Every time the NSA or GCHQ maps a network of contacts without reading the content of their messages, they are using the fundamental approach that Welchman pioneered with colored pencils in a requisition schoolroom. The official history of SIXTA, his traffic analysis operation, remains classified to this day. JTIDS, which he co-developed at MITRE, is operational across NATO right now. His student Frank Hart helped build ARPANET. His wartime insistence on treating intelligence as an industrial production system, interception, analysis, decryption, extraction, dissemination, all coordinated as one chain, is the foundational model of every signals intelligence agency on Earth. The Imitation Game made $233 million. It won an Academy Award. It told the world that Alan Turing broke Enigma and saved the free world. It did not mention Gordon Welchman, not in the script, not in the credits, not even in the historical note at the end. Turing built the machine. Welchman built the system that made the machine matter. The system won the war, and the system nearly erased the name of the man who built it.